The origin of the scientific approach to teamwork can be traced back to American industrial research in the 1920s and 1930s. At the time, there was a fashion in the USA for scientific management, involving time and motion experiments, where things like workplace lighting, temperature, piped music, brake patterns and pay systems were varied, and their effect on productivity was observed. Western Electric conducted a study on lighting at their Hawthorne plant. This was a large facility with 30,000 employees working in a noisy and stressful environment. They found that the lighting level made no difference to productivity, but doing the experiment did. When the factory was being studied, productivity improved, but when the experiment ended, productivity fell back to its previous levels. This became known as the observer effect. Keen to exploit this newfound knowledge, managers set out to define why this happened, conducting further studies. The relay assembly test experiments found 3 changes that increased productivity. Workers paid per relay assembled rather than per hour was hardly a surprise. Less expected was adding 10-minute work breaks and shortened shifts to end at 4 or 4:30 p.m. rather than 5 p.m. Both increased total productivity despite reducing work time. A mass interview programme was conducted with 21,000 workers. This found that merely having the opportunity to talk and express grievances improved morale. Most relevant to teamwork was the bank wiring room experiment. A specially adapted room was set up to observe a team engaged in bank wiring, a process of connecting wires to banks of terminals on telephone switching equipment. There were 9 wirers, 3 solderers and 2 inspectors, all allowed to get on with their task without management interference. A full-time professional observer was also in the room. Initially, workers would not talk freely when the observer was in earshot. After 3 weeks, the team had got to know the observer and normal behaviours resumed, including gossiping, game playing, quarrelling, teasing, helping and job trading. Detailed observation of real-life team behaviour was then possible. Elton Mayo was one of the original researchers and analysed data from the various studies. He identified certain critical conditions that needed to be in place for a team to be maximally effective. Team identity was a key factor. Successful teams developed an identity, a feeling of social support and cohesion that increased worker interaction and productivity. Successful team leaders took a personal interest in each member's achievements, a pride in the team's work, and faithfully delivered objective feedback. They also helped the group set their own conditions of work. In successful teams, members were consulted about methods and processes, so did not feel under pressure or imposed on when changes were made. The team set their own conditions of work. This led to a sense of confidence that allowed them to be candid about what they thought. Outsiders took an interest in what they were doing and adopted many practices that successful teams had agreed on, simply because they worked well in practice and were consulted before changes were made and developed. Several things about the Hawthorne studies gave them enduring importance in our understanding of team working. They were well designed and conducted, and they were large, well-funded studies conducted in real working environments rather than in a laboratory. They had hard-nosed outcome measures, specifically industrial productivity, and rather softer measures such as workers' self-reported stress that are common. Their main results may seem obvious today, but that in large part is due to the cultural change they initiated. Moving forward to the 21st century, these conditions still apply with scientific proof that certain conditions create effective teamwork. So why aren't we all embracing them?